All right, are you guys in?
Oh, man. What's up?
What's up, Monday crew?
Let's hear some music.
Hi, I'm Jason.
And I'm Greg.
We are GenX, and welcome to our podcast. We're the last generation to grow up without internet.
Welcome to our podcast, everybody. Thank you guys for tuning in for another week, another episode, and another great time hanging out here with GenX. We appreciate each and every one of you. Shout out to all of our audio listeners. Shout out to all of our video watcher people, friends. Hey guys, we are at 57 subscribers right now. I want you guys to smash that subscribe button until we get to 60. We just need 60 for this video. That's it. Just give us 3. That's all we need. Greatly appreciate it.
3 new dudes.
I'll give a shout out to our co-host Greg. Greg, how you doing?
What is up?
Give a shout out to our guest Anthony. Big Anthony's in the house.
And we are
Hit
still
it.
wondering, are we adults yet?
Oh, it can. I hit the wrong one. That's why.
That was IBM. You make the call.
Oh.
Give a shout out to all of our listeners and a big thank you to our Monday crew. We are still international, and I want to give a shout out to Sweden.
Sweden.
For some reason, the algorithm gods love us. Our audio library, which is just over 2 years old, 112, not 212, 112 episodes I think we are at.
112.
Somewhere in there. We're right in there, but Sweden is showing up strong, so thank you to all those who live in Sweden. Appreciate you guys.
Yeah, hey.
Yeah, all right.
Shout out.
Let's give a big Gen X welcome to Anthony. Anthony, how you doing today, bud?
I'm doing good, man. Thank you for having me on, brother.
I appreciate it. No, thank you for coming on in. So, Anthony's going to join us this week, and for the next hour or so, we're really going to jump into a whole lot of adulting. Anthony's got a tremendously brilliant story. He comes to us from the world of drug and alcohol recovery. So those folks, our listeners out there, I want you guys to tune in real close so you guys hear some of Anthony's story and some of the good stuff he has to say. And the end of his story is is a good stuff, man. He's good stuff. He's doing a lot of what he's been given. He's doing a lot with what he's been given. So, Anthony, thank you for coming on the show, man.
Thanks,
guys,
bro.
Man. Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
So instead of just jumping in and starting when you were 3 and telling us everything, and then when I was 4.5, I ate my dad's, gum, and then when I was 5, I took my sister's whatever, blah, blah, blah. So we're going to jump right in kind of to the nitty gritty. Tell us a little bit about your background and your journey with addiction. Kind of where did this start?
For me, I became a product of something outside of my home.
Yeah.
So it wasn't something that I was, raised with the values inside my house. My dad was a blue-collar guy, mechanic. My mom was a homemaker, Middle Eastern, Orthodox Christian background, Sunday school, the whole 9. I'd say that the moment that the household started to break down, with, verbal abuse and, different types of stuff going on with my parents, that I became a product that I sought outside of the home.
Yeah.
So I started hanging out on the corners, started hanging out with the dudes, and my neighborhood was pretty diverse. And everybody came from all over Northern California and kind of brought all the bad habits to my neighborhood.
Right.
So it was very easy to pick up on that stuff.
So anything you wanted was already there. And it sounds like at a young age, this started happening?
Yeah, I would say right around like 12, 13 is whenever I really started ramping up. And prior to that, 2-3 years prior to that, you could see the stuff inside the house starting to get a lot of tension, between mom and dad.
Right.
Before the separation happened. And I'm the oldest of 3, and I'm the only boy, 2 younger sisters.
Yeah.
So, for me as a people pleaser, I'm always looking at how to manage the situation and how to, think of the outcome and how to make everybody happy. And once you can't do that, it really starts working on your self-esteem.
So when you say things are ramping up, what are we talking about? Are we like drinking and using at this time? Is it more of like just what's happening for you at this age that kind of drove you out of the house to spend a whole bunch of free time with your diverse friends from all over California? Or
it started just with smoking pot, and having a little bit of alcohol here and there, and really rebelling against my father.
Right.
Because he was my soccer coach, he was my hero, And as soon as I started seeing the tensions in the house, I started doing everything he told me not to do.
Right.
Because for me, that was him kind of like, abandoning, our family. And so, I started getting involved with, going to raves, taking acid, mushrooms, really kind of going through the whole gambit, right? And up until, 7th grade, 4.0 student, now the grades are falling off. People at home are noticing. I'm just, bailing on the house. As soon as they're off to work, I'm gone.
Right.
And, doing whatever. And then, from at that point, the chemical, kind of takes over.
Right.
And you're in a place where, your self-esteem is so low, the trauma that you're dealing with, it's too much, and you're just trying to escape it.
Right.
And
I don't feel so bad when I'm loaded.
No.
I don't feel so bad when I'm high or under the influence or whatever. Right?
Yeah, hanging out with the fellas.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, find something else to do.
Gives my brain something else to
The
focus
attention,
on.
yeah.
Yeah, I get that.
And you can start talking to girls a little bit more easier, right?
Right.
Because, you're not in the head, and you get a little bit more loose. And all of that stuff starts really kind of snowballing. And then, for me after that, it was, the addiction to money. Money became kind of the catalyst for it all, because I think before everything, the poverty that we lived in and, the not having young and me noticing that at a young age, having to do without and seeing other people with, I think kind of motivated me to jump into these things and to figure out how to make a profit and get high too.
So to make a profit at those ages and to get high too, you didn't go fill out an application for a job at fast food like some of my friends did.
No.
Okay, so you weren't working fast food.
No. So I was holding down a job, and I was always holding down a pretty good job through the school programs, which was work experience back then.
Right.
So I was a highly functional, highly motivated, young fella that, my first job, I think, was a janitorial aide at 14.
Right.
And but that was always a cover-up.
Sure.
That was always just to keep everybody from asking me where the money's coming from.
Right.
Okay. Do you start by like just collecting money from your friends and then buying the bulk and then just separating it all out? You get to keep what's left?
No.
Is that how it starts?
No, man. The first thing that I ever did was my dad gave me a gas can and a lawnmower and made me mow everybody's lawns on the street.
Right.
Yeah.
And then I went and took that money and I bought myself a pair of 76ers from the flea market down the street.
Yeah.
And I started cutting everybody's hair for $5 in the soda pop every Friday. And from there, it motivated me to do more, But meanwhile, you're feeling like crap. You're dealing with traumas.
Yeah.
You see mom crying all the time. You don't know why. Dad's, going to the gun safe and playing with the guns whenever they get in an argument. So you think dad's going to kill mom, right? And around that time, you're hearing all the stories of this stuff happening. So, as a young mind, it's very, very hard to decipher what's going on, you know, and just to be a kid, you know what I mean? It's really, really hard, man. So yeah, it was a crazy time, and that just really took me to another level, hanging out with dudes that, were much older than me,
right?
Skipping high school, to go make runs with them and collect money and, try to put more money together and really figure out how this criminal element works.
Mm-hmm.
And I got good at it.
Tell me.
So, I started really like moving some serious weight, when I was probably about 17, got into, marijuana and cocaine. Mm-hmm. By 18, I was a full-blown heroin addict. So the first time I smoked black tar heroin, I think I was around 15 or 16. Right. And that was one of those things that I immediately hated. But again, the brain protects the chemical.
Sure.
So whenever you feel like crap, the brain says, hey, remember that thing? It made us feel good. So, we went from a little bit of weed and alcohol at 14 to 15, somewhere in there, to me, right? That's a big fucking jump. That's not everyone's different. You can have your own way, but to me, that's not the natural progression. That's generally not the next.
Well, you went through the psychedelics and stuff first, right?
Yeah. My first real experience with hardcore drugs was with acid.
Right.
That was the first, like, when I moved from marijuana and alcohol, I moved to acid.
Yes.
Got
it.
And I fried my brain out.
Yeah.
Like, everybody in high school knows me as the guy running around talking about, if you want to lick my finger, you're guaranteed to fry, because that's how much I handled acid.
Got it. You were known that you were the guy.
I was the guy,
What year was this?
This was 94, 95-ish.
Nice. Okay.
That summer.
Sure.
That was when things started really transitioning for me. And then by 96, like I said, I became pretty much, I came into contact with black tar heroin with a group of friends. Didn't know I was smoking black tar heroin and thought it was hash, and then kept on smoking a little bit and then became chemically dependent on it.
Sure.
And that was it. The wheels were off and running. And then, I had to feed that addiction, and so I was functioning very high.
Yeah.
And it was a slow progression over, a year and a half, but I moved from, chemical dependency to full-blown addiction.
Right.
Where that was it. It became my world.
Now I'm focused. Yeah.
So that really put a dent on the whole, kind of like, the drug dealing stuff, because I became
High as fuck.
I became my number one. I broke the 10 crack commandments on.
Lesson number 2, don't get high on your own supply.
That's right. Lesson number 2, don't get high on your own supply.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Serious.
So I was getting high off the supply. Things were bad at home. Mom and dad had now finally separated. And I remember walking into the living room, and my mom used to watch Oprah. That was her jam.
That was her jam,
That was her jam, And I remember walking into the living room and her watching an episode about black tar heroin.
Today, an all-new Oprah. What you're about to see is graphic. First the parents, then their teenage sons.
Can you believe this has happened to your family?
What Lisa Ling uncovered inside the heart of America. This hour, they will all have to make a life or death decision.
If you don't make the call, the deal's off.
And I was dying at this point inside, because I felt the walls closing in. I was on the eve of turning 18. And I remember just breaking down to her and telling her, like, Mom, everything you just watched right now is what I'm going through. And I remember that was the first time that I went to a program. So hadn't really got, mixed up with
Oprah did it?
Oprah did it, man. Oprah opened it up.
Shout out to Oprah. Let's throw her up on the screen real quick.
Oprah.
It's funny how, God does work. You know what I mean? When I came into the living room, I was already, broken, for months and months. And like, I was just running from everybody, And so, I broke down.
You stayed out of trouble and kept it all undercover the whole time? No one was suspicious?
No, I was getting jammed up.
Okay.
Mom's was definitely on my helmet. And Dad was, absolutely furious with me and didn't want to face me, what I mean?
Right.
And I was just ripping and running.
Yeah.
So that's where I was at with that. Went to my first program, and relapse is a part of my recovery, man.
Sure.
I'm a comeback kid. I probably got about 6 or 7 programs under my belt, about 10 halfway houses. And that's where that journey really started.
Yeah.
And the behavior didn't change. I ended up moving to Chicago. I went down to Long Beach in 99 after my second program, relapsed in 98 right after my first one. 99, went to the second program, took off to Long Beach, came back up here. My mom called my family in Chicago and was like, man, this guy's having a hard time. My cousin called me from over there. He owned Stereo Entertainment, and they used to do 5 nightclubs a week. And I moved to Chicago, and I became a blackout drinker. So the behavior didn't change. Everything ramped up.
A chemical
more.
change.
Chemical did, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was jumping from one sinking ship to another, you know? And during that time, the criminal element escalated.
Right.
So now we're talking about, went from, making a few thousand here and there to, making 100x more than that, and really hanging around with a bad criminal element.
Mm-hmm.
And I really honed in on the craft, and the behavior just ran rampant, you know.
That's all in Chicago?
In Chicago,
Yeah, I think they've got a pretty long history with criminal elements out in Chicago.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
They could probably teach you pretty good.
Oh, yeah. They call it Crook County for a reason.
Serious.
So, yeah, during that time, you know, it escalated, you know, even more. And, you know, I don't glorify this part of the story.
Sure.
This is something that, you know, whenever I am talking about my story, it's something that, you know, I usually start right at where the recovery started. So a lot of this stuff, you know, I generalize it. I don't go over it too much because it's a part of the past, which I don't shut the door on, but something that I definitely don't glorify. It was a bunch of bad choices that I was making in my life, and I am lucky that I didn't get tied up and taken for everything I got, including my life.
Yeah.
I'm lucky I'm not doing 30, 40 years in prison in Juliet. You know, and I'm not that good, and I'm not that lucky.
Right.
So I know that somebody else was watching out for me. Man,
Right.
That's what I say.
Get that. No, I like how you said that I don't glorify my past because, you know, your story usually starts with the recovery spot. And I get that. And I totally do. Sometimes when we do share some details and it's in the right environment, under the right context, people who hear it can really relate on a deeper level. They
Absolutely.
Can, you know what I mean? So
Absolutely.
I hear you on the glorifying, but it's those details that people who are like or similar, right, really connect with that. And so the story becomes a little deeper for them and a little more meaningful.
Absolutely.
Right. So,
Absolutely.
so I totally understand that piece of it. Right. So
Yeah.
I appreciate how you spun that. That was good. So let me ask you this. The home life started bubbling and not in a good way. Started, you know, going outside the house more, started picking up some chemicals, some drugs here and there. Home life tanked. You're off and running. You hit a few programs, a bunch of slips and falls, a bunch of restarts. You find yourself out in Chicago where it sounds like things peaked out in Chicago.
Yeah. I mean, you know, I had the philosophy back then that if you're scared, go to church, and only broke people go to rehab.
Right.
So, you know, that was my mindset. You know, I didn't believe in rehab. I thought people that were, you know, just strung out or dope fiends, you know, or don't have no money are the guys that go to rehab. Right.
Yeah.
So, you know, you got a pocket full of money, you got condos, you got cars, you got women, you got things going on. So, you know, you start feeling like somebody. But what didn't change, Jason, was that emptiness that was in my stomach since I was an adolescent.
Yeah.
That I don't know, I never know how to explain it, but that eerie feeling that's in the pit of your stomach, that you're not good enough, that you're not comfortable with your own skin, and that always had me ripping and running, man. You know what I mean? That always had me manipulating.
Keep you distracted.
It had me scared.
Yeah.
I was scared. Anything that I became a product of, I was not good at, but I was competitive in sports young. So I looked at everything as a competition.
Yeah.
And it got sinister, bro.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It got to the point where, you know what, I'm going to have to really ramp up my game. And it got really sinister, you know.
Right.
And it took me to a really dark place, which at the end of all that, I stayed out in Chicago till about 2006. The guy that I got on my arm right here, tattooed on my arm, my cousin Benio, he got killed in Cleveland. And I was the last person to see him in Chicago before he took that flight out. And he went to go do some things for some bad dudes, and, you know, it cost him his life. And that's when, like, everything really kind of hit me, you know, like, I need to go home. I've been out in Chicago for about 6 years at this point. He was the sharpest tool we had in the shed, and he's gone, so where does that put me?
Right.
And I always told myself that I'd pack up shop if, you know, I started feeling those walls close in. So I came back to California with the intention to change life, right? Get out the game. Came back, opened up a barbershop, started my own semi-pro football team, want to impact my community. But the power and the money, remember, the money was the catalyst for me. And that money started dwindling, you know, because I was $10,000, $5,000 par tabs. I still thought I was in Chicago with money coming in, but now I'm a business owner and money ain't coming in like the way it was before. And so it got bad. I ended up getting back onto opiates. I started buying about 6 to 8 Oxycontin 80s at the time. And that whole opioid addiction that I had evaded because I was drinking and I had to function very high in Chicago. Now, because of the depression setting back in, because losing a couple loved ones here and there, 10 years, from me leaving the house, and now I'm back here, everything started really setting in, and then I became an IV user for the first time.
So you left Chicago, but you didn't leave the woods.
No.
You just found new ones, different ones out here.
Back out here, with it, removing the criminal element and that style of drug dealing and all of that stuff, removing that, but the behavior stayed, right? So it's always the behavior, you know what I mean, that needs to be worked on. You can try to change and shift and do all these things.
Yeah. Change the environment.
But the behavior, if it's 95% of the problem, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Everything else is just a byproduct. So yeah, it got different, man.
Okay.
It got real different.
You land back out in California. The criminal element kind of wanes, but the chemical use ramps up. And now we're finding ourselves with a needle in our arm.
You know what? Before we get to the needle in the arm, what ended up happening was I started feeling like I was losing the power because the money started dwindling. So I took the money that I had left and I invested it in some marijuana to drive back to Chicago, because that was one of my biggest, selling points that I had going on out there. And I decided to get into the car with the stuff. And I ended up getting popped in Utah. So
I want to say they're a no tolerance state.
They are a no tolerance state.
I want to say that
I am banned for life from driving in the state of Utah because of that.
Do you have a document that says that?
I do have a document that says that.
Get out of here.
I'd love to see that.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
I have a document that says you cannot drive physically in the state of Utah
Forever. Yeah.
I mean, I got I got some stuff removed, the felony and all that stuff. I got expunged, but I'm pretty sure they were They were like, we're standing on this one.
Yeah.
You? No.
Yeah.
Friends?
is
Okay, you know.
Not expungible.
Now, once you get kicked out of Utah from driving on the roads, now you got
to go around that shit now.
I gotta fly. I gotta fly.
I'm sorry, guys. I'm gonna have to meet you there.
They're basically telling you should have just went around us in the first place.
Exactly. No renting a car in Utah. Bro.
Yeah, seriously.
I could fly. I could drive, but I got to go around Utah. All right. So you get hemmed up in Utah.
Yes. I bail out.
And this is for weed?
This is for weed.
Okay.
How much?
It was up there.
Okay.
It was up there, man.
Were you in a U-Haul truck?
Yeah, this is 06. This is not, where we're at right now.
This is before the clubs. This is before all that stuff.
This is way before all of that. This is where this is what they're looking for, right? And they get me, and I bail out, come back to California, and now I'm out all that money, right?
That's gone.
And whatever I have left is what's going to keep me out of jail for the next 5 to 10 years, because that's what they're trying to give me. So lawyer up.
Lawyers.
By the time I get done with the whole process, they give me about a year. I go serve, I think it was like less than 2 months, it wasn't that long. But now when I get back out, broke, back at mom's house.
Starting over.
And that's when that addiction started popping off. All I got is the businesses, right? And now I'm looking how to sell those businesses.
Would you just go find the old crew when you got out?
No, man. I actually it was some new people, and I got started on the Oxys. Oxys were big at this time. This is 07, and we're in the height of the Oxy.
Oh yeah.
Deal. And they were readily available. They were very expensive. And then that's when I went back to the H. Was
H to the Izzo?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's easier to get in. It's cheaper, right?
It's much cheaper, man.
Yeah, that's dirt cheaper.
Yeah, well, it's dirt, period. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, but yeah, I mean, you're paying about $20 to Oxy at that time, 25. You know, you get a gram of heroin for about that much. You know what I mean? So it was a no-brainer. And then, you know, that's when I got turned, you know, I call it the vampire. You know, when you get bit by the vampire, you get turned.
Yeah.
That's what I call that, you know, because that's what that whole scenario is. Once somebody shows you and you get into that life, that's it, you know. And from that point on, man, it was 3 years of absolute hell on earth, you know. Everything, all the illusions, everything, life as I knew it, I didn't want to live anymore.
Right.
Trying to check out. I overdosed about 3 different times during that period. Ended up in the hospital once.
You just staying with your parents the whole
So
time,
it's just me and my mom now.
Okay.
And she's kicking me out regularly, and I'm trying to get it right. And at the end, mom's just giving up on me, and she's like, okay, if you're going to do it, just go do it in the room, because I'm tired of waiting up at night, waiting to see if I'm going to get a phone call. So my dealer is literally coming to the house, walking alongside the back. I've occupied the master bedroom, kicked my mom out of the master bedroom, because this is what drugs and alcohol do, right?
Yeah.
They take everybody hostage.
Best decision
It's all
makers
about you.
ever.
Yeah.
And, you know, when you have the enabler in your life, you know.
Yeah, they're unstoppable.
You know.
Yeah.
And so it was really, really bad, man. That's all I can tell you. What I can remember about that time was that, you know, I just didn't want to be here. Spiritually bankrupt, committed spiritual suicide, and was just ready for the real thing.
Right.
You know, just it was checkout time in my mind, because in my mind, I already been to the rehabs. I already been to, you know, the halfway houses, worked with a couple sponsors. It was just time to, you know, check out. You're going to be a dope fiend for the rest of your life. You're going to die like, this is a negative tape that's playing in the head, right?
Yeah, right.
You're gonna die a dope fiend. Why even try anymore? You know, because it's not even about letting people down. It's about me letting myself down,
right?
Because a piece of your sanity gets stripped every time. And I was out on the ledge, man, you know, and then my sponsor that became my sponsor, that's my sponsor till this day, actually lived across the street from my house. He'd been working on me slowly, didn't even know it, right? And my mom saw that I started building a relationship with this gentleman from across the street, big burly dude. He was a bike rider, you know, and I had nothing in common with him because I didn't even like motorcycles, you know. And it was obnoxious. He had this red one that was just super obnoxious, and it would blare right into my room. And she went and got him one day, man, because, you know, I had left the house for about a week. I was right there at that point where I had just overdosed for the last time, just maybe the week prior. And the crazy part about it is, man, I had a come to Jesus moment. I literally went out with the needle in my arm. I woke up an hour and a half later with nobody in the house. My mom wasn't supposed to be home for at least another 6 hours. And I had a spiritual out-of-body experience, like literal. And I visited the man upstairs. And when I came back to, I know where I had went, and I knew what I had to do. And he had told me, man, I've been showing you signs your whole life, and you haven't been paying attention. And so now I'm not saving you for you no more. I'm saving you for the people that have been praying for you, because I'm not going to be able to remove that pain from them. And when I came back to, man, I had this cry, this moment of just unbelievable. I knew that things had to change. And my mom got back home from work that night, and I said, Mom, wherever I got to go, send me to Siberia. I don't care. I'm willing to do it. And from that day, everything changed, man. That was the last time that I put my hand on anything, because I knew that if I did, that was it. And I was at the end of the rope. My mom had given up on me. My dad checked out on me. My sisters couldn't understand what was going on. Had no friends. Money was gone. Power was gone.
Yeah.
There was nothing left at that point except to accept what this gift that had been given to me.
Right.
You know what I mean? This gift. There was nothing else. The only thing that was left was death. I went through institutions. I went through jails. So that was it, man. You know, and from that moment on, you know, I hustled for my recovery. You know, I really did. I wanted to make sure that this was the last time, you know?
Right.
And that was it. You know, that was the choice. And then recovery, man, that's a whole nother animal. You know, what goes on in recovery, how you get there, how you start peeling back the layers to the onion, that's crazy.
Just doing the work.
Yeah. How old were you when you got and stayed clean?
So my clean date is 1/7/11. Okay. So that was just before I turned 30.
Okay.
No, I was 30 years old whenever I got clean.
Okay.
Yeah, so 30 years old, and the first time I went to rehab was 18.
Yeah.
So
you got 12 good years in there.
yeah.
Okay.
And then, you know, prior to that, still was using before
Yeah.
I went to rehab. So
Those were the fun years.
yeah,
That was all the fun you had was then.
yeah.
Okay.
Those were, and you know, when you say fun, they're I was motivated by fear, man.
Yeah.
I was a kid that was very scared. You know, I was scared to do those things because I was taught not to do those things.
Right.
And so I never did any of those things with confidence. Not the criminal element, nothing. I was always, fear is what kept me safe.
Right.
You know, but, you know, because I was just a scared little kid, man, you know.
I get it.
And I tell a lot of the guys that, you know, I work with now, especially those that come out of the, you know, different institutions, you know, that you got to strip yourself, man. You got to get to the truth, because you can be as honest as you want to be, but it's not being truthful.
Right.
You know, because information, man, it's what really sets you free. I remember coming back to a rehab for the very last time and realizing that even though I've been here 6 times before, this is actually the first time I'm listening to this stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
This is actually the first time that I'm putting any kind of brain power into the disease concept.
Yeah, you're bought in.
You know, and I could tell you right now, from 14 years ago to right now, completely different.
Yeah.
Because even the stuff you think you know in that first year, bro, you don't.
Right.
You don't think, you're still trying to get that fog lifted, you know?
So you started to say that your mom had to call that biker over.
Yeah, so right before that overdose, he comes over and I'm on the ledge because I have no money. My mom's not going to give me any more money.
Right.
My mom's being empowered, obviously, by somebody.
Yeah.
Which is most likely him.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, like, you got to stop giving him stuff. You know, and so he messed up my whole hustle.
He did.
You know, the Buzzkill crew was in the house.
Seriously.
And so, you know, and I'm not understanding why mom's flipping the script on me, you know, because for the last, you know, 3-4 months, it's been kosher, you know. And so that's what happened. He comes over and he's like, "What are you going to do, man?" You know, and I was like, he goes, "No, truly, what do you want to do right now?" I said, "What I really want to do is I want to kick my mom in the stomach. I want to take her purse and her car keys, and I want to go rob a store, and I want to go get as high as I can, and I want somebody to take me out." You know, and that's where my mindset was at that moment. And he reeled me back in. And then that later on that week was whenever I experienced what I experienced with that final overdose. And that was absolutely insane, man. You know, that was the wake up call. That was the experience of all experiences in my life.
Right.
You know, and I knew that I knew where I had went. Gnosos. I knew that I knew. I experienced the experience, bro.
Right.
And when I came back, that was it. That was the moment that everything just flipped.
So what did you actually do? Did you hit another program? Did you go to the rooms? Did you follow the guy across the street?
Yeah.
What did your feet do after this?
So after that, I called the recovery house in Stockton. That was the place that I had been to multiple times before. And I ended up going over there, and I ended up being taken on by the gentleman across the street from me as my sponsor.
Okay.
And you know what's crazy is that I went to recovery house. This was like my 5th time there. Mm-hmm. This was the only time I didn't complete. The last time.
Yeah.
I completed every time before that. So they had some SASCA. It's funding through the prisons.
Yeah.
and they had a zero tolerance on horse playing. And I'm sitting reading my big book in the bunk, and these guys are dogpiling each other, and I'm just not partaking in it. And the night counselor comes in, takes everybody to the room, takes everybody's names, and the next day, they say, you guys are all gone. I said, well, wait, what? I didn't partake. They said, yeah, but you didn't go telling them. I said, you wanted me to go tell on a bunch of convicts?
Right.
I go, you crazy, man.
You don't understand the culture here,
I
man.
go, I'm not going to go tell on these guys, you know? I was like, okay, you know what? That's fine. I was like, but you're going to call my mom, and you're going to tell her that I didn't have nothing to do with this. This is just your guys' policies because I didn't go tell. So they did.
They did?
Yeah, mom was cool.
Very cool.
So when I got
She
home,
never would have believed you.
Yeah, no, she wasn't. Yeah.
no,
I wasn't going to believe
No.
you.
Yeah, right.
you know, and this was like only like 2-3 weeks in. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah.
So it was like, you know, and I was like, I was listening to everything. I was doing everything I was supposed to, and it was just a God shot, man. Because when I came back, I told my mom,
God shot.
yeah, it was just a total God shot. You know, when I came back, I locked in with the church, and got locked into recovery, and I started hitting meetings left and right, 2, 3, 4 a day. Didn't have a car. I was putting my bike up on my homeboy Max Modesto Area Express.
Oh yeah,
You know,
Homeboy Max.
Max, give me a ride.
I put it in my bike up on the rack, you know, and you know, my ex-wife would, you know, drop me off and, you know, pick me up, and I was doing the deal though, man. And I got into counseling school. You know, I ended up becoming a AOD counselor with one of our local treatment facilities, and they ended up taking a chance on me. You know, about 8 months into my recovery, they took a chance on me, and I stuck around there for a few years, and helped out a lot of men in our community, and really started building a reputation for myself within my own ethnicity to be the go-to guy. For the Assyrian community here in Turlock, Ceres, and Modesto, and now I get phone calls from everywhere, you know, from the
You're that
Midwest. Yeah.
So let me ask you about that. That was one of the questions here. You know, culturally speaking, what were the implications, or were there any barriers, or what was the stigma within the Assyrian community? How was that viewed? Like, you know, I know there's other communities and other cultures that, you know, it's severely stigmatized, and we don't talk about it. We just either fix it or we just deal with it. We don't talk about it. We don't ask for help. We don't do any of those things. What's it like, or what was it like in the Assyrian community? Was it like that? Is it?
Very much so. It still is. So, you know, you think 2024, you know, you don't think, you know, with as much material and information as there is, you know, online nowadays, you think that this thing would be not have so much stigma behind it. But
Right.
the Middle Eastern culture, you know, it doesn't matter whether they're Arab or they're Christian, they still have that pride, you know, and it's more about saving face than saving your ass, right?
Sure.
So, you know, for them, it's about, you know, let's sweep it under the rug, you know, let's get a hold of him or
Pull
her.
yourself together, but don't
Yeah.
talk about it.
Don't
Yeah.
talk about it. You know, you can get rid of this. What's wrong with you? You know, you don't need this. You know, you got to be strong.
Sure.
You know,
All the things, right?
all those things. You know, what are you doing? You're embarrassing us. You know, and they're
Yeah.
shaming. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the shame.
which drives them even further into their addiction.
Right.
Yep.
You know, or
That's not helpful.
alcoholism. No.
Okay.
So, you know, and, you know, with this really bad stuff that's out there right now, we all know what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's really, these things like got to be met with, you know, somebody that can. So my mom actually goes with me to some of these households, you know, to further break the stigma
Right.
of what we went through. And when she'll speak, you know, in our ethnicity's native tongue, you know, it really breaks down mom and dad.
Testimony is huge, bro.
It's huge, especially
Hearing it in their own language from their own people.
That too, right?
About this is what you do and this is how you handle it, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So, you know, I think right now we're definitely a lot more further than we were when I first began.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been, you know, within our communities, you know, live events, you know, that they've had, and, you know, on some of the satellite TV that we have over here, I've talked about it openly, and my numbers out there. So, I get a ton of phone calls, man.
Yeah.
Come, please speak to my daughter, my son, my, husband, or, whoever, and I go because I owe.
That's that.
I know that God kept me around for a reason. And, I could be dead tired, man, had been working with the kids all day and youth sports and doing all that, and just get my head down on a pillow, and I'll get a phone call, and I'll look up and I'll be like, yep, we're going.
Yep.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're head deep in recovery. You have become the go-to in your community. Your mom has even jumped in, and she's doing guest appearances, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So what is? Let me ask you this. So you're already well into recovery. Let me ask you, how did your family and friends react to you this time when you started getting clean? I would imagine that the behavior started to speak for itself at some point.
Yeah.
What were their reactions?
There's always going to be that moment where everybody has that doubt, right? Because the track record's there. I think me this last time was not focusing on that and was really adamant about working my way back into the hierarchy of the family system, wanting that respect and not demanding it, but earning it back.
Yeah.
Because for me, respect and honor are, pretty much the yin and the yang in my life. You know what I
Right.
mean? Those things, it's pretty much my existence, and so, I knew that there was, doubt and there was reluctancy, and that's the great part about when you build your support group, man. You got to do it with people that, even though they don't fully, know that you're going to do it, they got hope.
Yeah.
You got to surround
Before
yourself.
you have hope, they have hope.
They have hope, right? And you got to really surround yourself with people that, bring some sort of hope to the table, man. You know what I mean? And I would run into some people that would see me, clean, but, they'll be like, nah, this got to be a con. I know him. You know what I mean? There's an angle here,
Right.
Yeah.
And those guys, what I come to find out was, like, people will call them haters, and I don't call them haters. Those guys are really watching you to see if it's truly real.
Yeah.
Because they want to know if it's possible for
Because
them.
deep down inside, they probably want what you got.
Exactly.
I get it.
Exactly.
I get it. How many of our listeners out there have a story like Anthony's, or have a friend or a family member that have, you've experienced this with? Smash the subscribe button for us. Let us know that you're out there watching this. Hit us a like and leave us a comment down below. What do you think so far? Hit us up and smash that subscribe. Again, we're trying to get from 57 to 60. Just in here, we're brand new. We're brand new. One day we're going to have millions of
double digits.
followers. We're going to have millions of, views. We're going to be up there in the ranks with Mr. Beast and all those other
It'll say
legends.
1.7 M.
Wes Watson.
Yes.
Subscribe. Click it. Okay. So a specific question. Cravings.
Yes.
How did you, or do you, manage cravings?
I did with food for a long time there, man.
Ate the craving?
I ate the craving.
Okay.
Yeah. I wouldn't say that I wasn't a foodie my whole life,
Sure.
but I would say definitely after that first year of sobriety, started gaining a lot of weight,
Okay.
and that was due to really kind of like, and that's something you got to watch out with in recovery, I've had a lot of complications with health during recovery.
Right.
A lot of it was because of wreckage of the past.
Right.
And a lot of it was because, that first year, 2 years, 3 years of recovery,
I'm eating every day.
I'm eating.
A couple of times.
And that's the thing about recovery. You're tasting everything,
Right.
You know what I mean? Before you didn't eat, what I mean? You lost a
Might
bunch
just
of
be some
weight,
scrambled eggs.
Top ramen.
I think my diet whenever I was a heroin addict was a pack of Starburst and
Yeah.
maybe 80 cc's of water a day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
I mean,
It's about that much.
yeah, that was all, that's all I had, and so, yeah, but really, like, picking up the phone, calling my sponsor, going to those meetings, doing the things that were suggested to me,
Surrendering.
those things really, really help because I started peeling back, my track record and the vicious cycle, and I started seeing it. right? I was always trying to do the pendulum swing. I was trying to get to A to Z without doing the work.
Right.
You know, I was a camouflage chameleon. I could do time with the best of them,
Right.
and I could work my way into any group of people.
Right.
You know, that was kind of my thing.
Yeah.
And I could speak your lingo and talk like you after just being with you for a couple of days.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what I had to cut through was those lies, right? And so I would say the way I managed those cravings the most was just getting real and dealing in the truth of everything, you know. And that was what really helped me, you know, move forward and put quality days one after the other.
Right.
There wasn't lies. There wasn't no motive behind anything. The integrity was intact. The moral compass was pointing me in the right direction.
You had a support group. You had phone numbers. You had people to lean on.
Absolutely.
And you actually utilized those tools.
And I had God in my life, and I was
Right.
aware of it. You know, I was aware of it. It wasn't just this made-up dude, you know, that everybody been talking about my whole life. I finally created a relationship.
And then you found a mission with it.
And he put the mission in me,
Right.
you know.
Right.
He put the mission in me because me at my core, I'm a liar, cheat, and a thief.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so you know the person that I was right today. You know, I've converted into this man that he's wanted me to be my whole life, but because of misguidedness, you know, not having, you know, that mentor in my life to spiritually guide me, which
Right.
is super important. Dad was there, but he was working all the time.
Yeah.
And his guidance was be a man, don't cry.
Yeah.
Sit
sure.
here for 30 minutes, you know, and before you go play with the kids, you know, show the dominance, you know, in front of everybody. I got control of my kid, you know, and then now you can go play when I tell you to, you know. So, you know, it was a bulldozer mentality, you know, and I ended up taking on a lot of that stuff, and I became a person that, you know, I was not happy with. But, you know, you get to a point, man, where you got to make some choices.
Right.
You know, you got to make some big choices in your life. You have 1,000 of them every day when you wake up. Just in that first hour, you got thousands of choices to
Right.
make, man. You know,
Snooze, snooze, snooze.
This is the first few.
you know. And now, you know, those choices become a lot more clear, you know, as you mature in this process, as you help other people, as you start being at service, and you start understanding the impact of impacting your own life first
Right.
in order to impact those that are around you.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so there's a whole process that goes in that. And at the beginning of this, I didn't know that. You know, it took a long time. You know, my sponsor used to always tell me, if you kill yourself within the first 5 years, you killed a stranger. I didn't understand what that meant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, I didn't know what that meant. And I got past that 5-year mark and I understood what it meant. He was absolutely right.
Yeah.
Those first 5 years, man, they're
You're still figuring
I don't
shit
know who
out.
I
You're
am,
still
bro.
picking up stuff, looking at it, going, where does this go?
I
Why do
never spent any time on
I
this.
didn't know I had this.
no, all the, you know,
That's the
mental.
layers they're talking about.
Oh,
Just-
yeah.
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 You know, I can go back now. Like, I could tell you my story the way I did, but now I can go back and I can pinpoint things. I
Yeah.
can tell you, you know, ADHD, executive dysfunction disorder, chemical imbalance,
Yeah.
you know, not enough dopamine, you know, generational trauma, self-defense mechanisms that no longer work. You know what I mean? And I can go on and on and on, you know, all the things that, you know, these years have provided for me. And, you know, I've learned these things off of what we're doing right now,
Right.
right? Informational podcasts. You know, I've went to, you know, the AA and A meetings, seminars, you know, therapy,
Right.
you know, sessions, you know, multiple, you know, whether it's within church or, you know, wherever. I've learned a lot, and there's a ton of information out there. And until you gain that information, you can't get to the truth.
Yeah. The tools. All the tools are out there.
You cannot get to the truth, man.
Yeah.
You know? As long as you got that veil, because nobody can pull the wool over your eyes. You can, though.
Oh, we talk about that a lot. We talk about if I just don't like mentally or emotionally look at it, I can just float over here and use again. If I don't, this is the know better. This is my accountability and this is my call to reason. But if I just Just don't let a thought land in my head. I can just over and pick up.
Ignore that guy for a little while.
Ignore that guy for a little while, right? Yeah. And the problem really comes as we get older, people hold us less accountable unless we run into law enforcement authorities, right? Then they hold us accountable in the worst possible way or the best possible way, however you look at it. But as we get older, the expectation is that we're going to recognize and unfuck our own glitches, right? When you asked us earlier, how do we come up with the podcast? I never got to the part, but that's our main topic of our, that's our mission statement, to recognize and unfuck your glitches. Yep. You're an adult when you can recognize your glitch.
Yeah.
And you address it. You address it in whatever way that you address it for the good of man, for yourself, but for your community, for your family,
and the people around you.
For the people around you, right? It's never about what you own or what job you have. We 100% agree. It's not about an age you reach. We know knuckleheads. We're still wondering if we're adults now.
Yeah.
Right? But when you can recognize that, and Anthony, their whole story here has been telling us all of these glitches, character defects, right? Glitches, and how you've recognized them and really unfucked them for yourself to a point where now you are leaned on and you are the go-to for strangers who just hear the name and trust the community. Word of mouth, the most powerful marketing and advertising ever, right?
Absolutely, kneecap to kneecap.
And here you are. So hats off to you for giving yourself to this program, right? Hats off to you for surrendering and sharing that story, right?
Absolutely.
Half measures, trying to hold on to one thing. I could do this, but not this. It's, some folks claim that it's a burning bush kind of moment. Other folks, it's a gradual thing over time.
Yeah.
It sounds like you had a burning bush. Sounds like you had a burning fucking mountain.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So either way you guys get to sobriety, either way you get to, whether it's a single incident moment or it's a gradual learning thing over time, the reward and the promises given to you in those rooms and by the people who are in sobriety, they promise you a life you don't deserve.
No.
I'm living a life I don't deserve. And you said that in slightly different words, right? I am now in a place that I am given things that I've never really had or didn't know what to do with. I have respect today. My community leans on me today. Strangers call me for help. Good Lord. What better measure could that, could you really have?
And that's the ultimate, gratitude, man. You know what I mean? It's just being thankful that you're in a position now that once a black sheep where nobody wanted anything to do with you.
Those are the realest people in any family.
Always.
Any family.
The ones that can turn it around.
Knucklehead, bro. Jesus hung around a bunch of knuckleheads.
Those are the ones we call when shit gets real.
100%.
Those are the ones we call when we don't know who else to ask those really tough questions for.
Yeah.
And you know what? I'm not going to throw anybody by name under the bus, but in California, now that, weed has been legal for a long time, there are elders that I know of that are like, wondering if, how to get the weed or how to get the gummies, how to get them. I'm like, you're like 75 years old. Why? How? Why? Right? And why are you asking me?
Yeah.
Well, because I'm that guy. I was the guy in the family. You know what I mean? It's like shit.
Yeah.
So grandma, grandpa, you know what I mean? People out there, but it's addiction doesn't happen for everyone. And when addiction comes full circle and it goes into its cocoon and it comes out the other side, it is one of the most beautiful things it is, because
it truly is.
You are not only helping yourself, but by you helping others, by giving away freely what you have been given. You were given sobriety, you were given these blessings, and now you take those. And I know firsthand, you just give that shit away. You can't give it away fast enough. When you give it away, it keeps coming to you in 2, 3, 5, 10 fold. I'm not talking about money necessarily. I'm not talking about cars or gifts or gift cards or anything tangible like this. I'm talking about humility. I'm talking
spiritual.
about gratitude. Yeah, I'm talking about peace of mind and heart.
It's different. Yeah.
And when you are blessed in that way, your needs are freaking met. Your needs are met. That's what they mean by living a life we don't deserve. Don't have the mansions or the cars or the things that we think that are making it, like we've arrived and we have these things that you can see, right?
But the manna shows up when we need it.
Yeah.
But when God sends somebody to help another person and that person does it at dark, So nobody sees him. He does it selflessly. He doesn't do it for reward.
No.
Right?
Yeah.
You help in the dark so nobody sees you, and you do it because you're paying a debt back. You're not doing it to gain anything for you. You're paying back something you've already been given.
Yeah.
And it's limitless. It's unlimited. You can give it away until the day you die, and your universe, your God, or whoever you pray to will just pour that shit onto you. I guarantee it.
You got to give it away to keep it, man. You know?
The weirdest thing. It's kind of like STDs.
Yeah.
No, just kidding. I wanted to ask you, besides your sobriety, you didn't have to tell me how proud you are to be sober, but besides your sobriety, what are you proud of?
Man, you know, I'm super proud of what we've been building here in Turlock, man. You know, with this youth sports facility and really impacting our community with youth sports and using sports the same way that it was given to me, right? Like my coaches that I had are probably some of the guys that planted seeds in my life that probably saved my life, like outside of God and, you know, all that stuff, because I know that those guys were using sports as a catalyst for, you know, God. You know, they're using it as a vehicle for God. And some of those things that had been taught to me young, I realized during this process were some of the things that saved my life.
Yeah, life lessons, huh?
You know, and so I started, you know, doing flag football here in Turlock about 5 years ago. It was very small. Right. I think I had 69 kids my first season. Then COVID hit, and we didn't shut down.
Oh, yeah?
We stayed open.
You were those guys?
We were those guys.
Nice.
And everybody started coming.
Nice.
You know, and everybody started coming to us.
Yeah, everybody wants to get their kids out of the house and go do something.
Absolutely, man. And now, you know, 850 kids in the soccer program, 400 plus in, you know, flag football every time we put a registration up. And, you know, the brand and, you know, what we've been doing is just, it's all motivated, you know, through impacting the community and doing it, you know, at a high level. But because the passion is there, the purpose is there.
Yeah.
Right? This isn't a herd them in, herd them out.
Yeah,
Let's get their money, you know what I mean? And not have a quality thing going on. This is, we're sustaining it, man. And it's because of the team that has been, you know, we've been blessed with to build.
Right.
And I'm so proud of that. I'm proud of my family, man. You know, my sisters, my mother, you know, the way they stuck with me through everything. I went through some rough stuff, man, in recovery, dude. You know, I ended up finding out about 5 years in. My dad passed away about 5 years into my recovery. And, you know, I was trying to go through this process with my ex-wife to go through IUI. And they didn't do my full blood panel test. My dad's in the hospital sick. We found out he had stage 4 cancer. I'm in the midst of trying to do this IUI with my ex-wife. These guys dropped the ball on my blood panel test. I go do it, find out that I have Hep C from my using career. Now I can't go through the IUI process. Dad dies. Go to UCSF to get on some medication to get off the Hep C. Mm-hmm. And about 30 days on that medication, have a massive heart attack. I was like 36. Massive heart attack, 100% blockage in the Widowmaker.
Oh, wow.
Damn.
Me and the wife are on the rocks. We're on the fritz. We end up separating. Probably some of the coldest times of my life was in recovery, but it was that foundation, man, that got set that first year that just kept me, you know, here. Just had another massive heart attack back in October, you know, and had to do open heart surgery in March.
Wow. Damn, what the hell, bro?
Yeah. And so when I tell you some of my biggest
You let
hurdles,
me bring you taco truck?
Yeah. two tacos.
2 tacos.
He said, he asked me what I wanted, you know, and I had to tell him, hey, just 2 tacos, bro, because I can't do it like, you know.
I get it. I
can't,
get it.
You know,
I saw you make them into 4.
I made them into 4, though. You know, I doubled them up.
Little mind trick.
You know what I mean? So some of the, you know, biggest hurdles, the challenges that I've went through have been in recovery.
Right.
And that's the beauty of it, is that you now have the toolkit that was laid down at your feet.
Right.
To be able to take a look at these problems and solve them.
Yeah.
And work through them. And the whole way part, of the podcast, right? Like, when you said what you said about how we undo things,
Right.
and we unpack some things.
We address that stuff, yeah.
And so for me, like, I always look at hope. I always look at prayer to go to for anything. Not when it's good, when it's bad, when it's balanced. I go to those things because I believe in them, man.
Right.
They saved my life. So
100%.
You have to give yourself the opportunity to position yourself to win in life. If you don't, it's going to spiral real quick. So, and I heard you say something about addiction and like, our program and this and that, but I feel like it applies to everybody.
Right.
I feel like the whole world is one step away from being a hot mess on any given Tuesday. You know what I mean?
Right.
Every
4 years, it gets worse.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, like, even just in the personal day-to-day life, like, you could be normie, right? I'm good, nothing's wrong. And because you haven't been practicing some certain things in your life, somebody passes away, you go on a bender, you catch a DUI, or you get a back injury, you go to the doctor, you get some pain meds, you're taking too many, I'm running into these stories every single day, man. I'm starting to realize that, this program, it might be for us, but it works for everybody.
So that's something I've always kind of been able to brag about a little bit. Not brag like for myself, but like those who go through, let's say, like a 12-step recovery, right? Because there's different, right? Let's say someone who goes through the 12-step recovery, and let's say they work it honestly, and they work it with quality people, right? So they get the best result, right? Those folks, a lot of times, will get results about themselves, about insight, and really be able to, like, from the core of their being, make significant changes for themselves or solidify what is really good about them, but basically come out the other side in a way that normal folks, normies, we call them, people who aren't addicts, never get the opportunity to, because they never, like you said, pendulum to the ugly to have to come back to the beautiful.
Exactly.
They kind of pendulum between and meh, and meh. Sometimes through the blessing of addiction, we get to swing full circle or full 180 the other way and get to find out what our character defects are, really get some deeper coping mechanisms for life, right? Death.
There's something that happens in that process about where you learn tools that. So I think a lot of people just go through like on a roller coaster ride. I wake up, I do coffee, I go to work. Everybody's just on their rail and nobody's going off of it, right? And something happens during those 12-step programs that make you start asking questions about yourself that lead to the recognize. Before you can unfuck, you must recognize. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people are just not in a recognition pattern.
No, because maybe they don't have the ugly to have to deal with.
But the 12 steps force you to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been going, so I have someone close to me that needed to go to Celebrate Recovery. They weren't going to go by themselves. So I started going to Celebrate Recovery, learning stuff about myself. I wasn't going for me. I just knew he wasn't going to go unless I went.
Yeah.
But like 6 or 8 of those, I'm like, damn, this is kind of cool.
Yeah.
I'm learning stuff about me. I'm asking questions about myself I never really thought about.
It's not $125 an hour.
Yeah, seriously.
Exactly. It's a group
church.
Conscience.
Yeah.
Group conscience therapy, man.
And it's nothing but love there.
I think number 4 is where you find your stuff.
Yeah.
That's the searching of fearless moral
that's
inventory.
That's
and this isn't even like I'm not on like I know some of the Celebrate Recoveries, they put you can't join until we're doing step 1 again.
Yeah.
Like this is just a weekly, you just show up, doesn't matter. We start periodically, groups fire up, and they're just trying to put people together for 12-step programs that they just fire up when they get enough people to do it. But just the weekly rhythm of being with all these loving, positive people every week, man.
Yeah.
They're all the people that have been there and turned it all the way around, man. So
people who are like real, the black sheeps, right, that have now, I don't think any of us, or I will speak for myself, I never wanted to be a white sheep. Sheep. I don't mind being the black sheep, but I was the clean sheep. But I had my street cred. You know what I mean?
Like a people-pleasing black sheep.
I don't mind being
Well, if
the
you got-
retired gangster or
if
whatever. You know what I
street
mean?
cred, you're the black sheep. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you can't get that.
You got prison validation or street credibility. You know, that's, you're in that category.
Yeah.
And so for me, I never wanted to completely erase or forget about that life. You know, there's a lot of, I take some pride in where I've come from. I take pride in the journey, right? The distance. And so, like you said, there's things I don't glorify, but with my boys, you know what I mean? Or love to talk about the stories, but in the big sense of the things, I like glorifying, the dark times, because I get to talk about how I got to go through it, or what got me through it, right? I don't mind talking about the difficulties because I love talking about the reward on the other side. Yeah. You know what I mean? So it's the journey, it's the distance between the two, right? So you get a room full of those folks who have gone that distance. That's a powerful fucking room.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
To your point, every time I'm asked, so, I started speaking for the Wake Up program with the PD. Mm-hmm. And so I started, embarking on speaking a lot during the course of these last, 13 and a half years. And it's never the same. Different rooms.
Yeah.
Different people.
Yeah.
Different story. Not different story, but which part of the story gets told. How it affects the room. What is the delivery?
Right.
I never write anything down on paper. I don't.
Right.
I've tried. I never stick to the script.
Yeah.
There it is.
And so I just always pray, and whatever it is that God wants me to say.
That's
And it's a trip whenever I go one-on-one. He teleports me back like through a wormhole, almost, where I can almost smell certain smells.
Yeah.
From my using.
Oh yeah.
It's weird, bro.
No, I get it.
And in order for me to feel the intensity of what that person is feeling,
right,
in order for me to connect, he's giving me this ability. And like sometimes, dude, I'll tell you, like I go home and I feel dope sick because I smelled those smells.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. And I'm not even talking about the smell of drugs, the smell of the bathroom before I was getting ready to set up. That certain smell of that Fabuloso that my mom used to use in the room.
Yeah.
Right? And then you get used to these like senses, and you forget about them.
Well, the brain doesn't know the difference though.
No.
When you're reliving a memory and stuff.
Bro.
The brain doesn't know the difference anyway.
It's a trip because I'll forget it. I will not even, won't be on my radar. And I'll get in with a person and lock in.
Yeah.
And my brain time warps into these moments. So I
can smell that pipe in your pocket.
Yeah.
And it's crazy, dude, because like, it's definitely a gift, and it's definitely a part of what happens when you surround yourself with people that start pulling your gifts out of you.
Yeah.
Because you need that.
Right.
You need to be surrounded with people that have hope, that know how to pull your talents out of you, because that's how I got to rise to where I'm at today, was because I had some great people say, hey, what you thought your deficiencies are, they're actually gifts.
Right.
Why you were scared as a kid and why is because you felt different because you were different.
Yeah.
It's because you had a special thing that you didn't know, and because you weren't like the others, it made you feel less than. And that was a really big turning point whenever I started realizing, damn, that's cold.
Right.
That's on the money.
Yeah.
I felt different because I was different.
If I could have just learned that 30 years ago. Somebody would have just told me that when I was a kid.
Wouldn't have listened.
Yeah.
I'd ask you for a
I'm
cigarette.
pretty sure a school teacher or a principal or someone tried to say that.
I had a lot of teachers. I had a lot of good ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the maturing, the unscrewing of, the stuff, right?
Yeah.
Right? That's a part of it, And you were talking about like Normie and, the difference between us and them. Bro, they got coping skills, right? They got immense amount of coping skills, and they could take an immense amount of pressure that, like, for me, I'm buckling.
Yeah, right.
I'm out of there. I'm, let's go,
Right.
And so it took me to understand that, yes, we're different, and yes, they have this, but, that's why, like, things like Al-Anon for the person that isn't addicted is so big, right? Like for my sisters and my mom.
Right.
because they have different stuff.
So
Yeah.
while you're talking about Al-Anon real quick, that brings us to our two final questions. One question is, what advice would you give to someone who is currently struggling with addiction, assuming they're listening? And the second question is very much what you just started to talk about. How can family and friends best support someone who is either in addiction or in recovery?
Find the cool biker in your neighborhood.
Yeah.
And turn them over.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Great question. It's, it's the starting point of the turning point in the family's life that's going to shape the next, decade of their lives. So it's a very, very important question. Anybody that's an addict, right? I'm going to tell them 100% of the time that they need to go to treatment. And this isn't an auto response. This isn't because it's the right thing to do, or it's because it's what they need in order to unpack the disease concept.
Okay. So let me ask some clarifying questions on this. I agree with you 100%. They need to go to treatment.
Yes.
Could mean several different things to several different people.
Inpatient.
Okay. So I'm asking you. So you're saying residential
Residential treatment, 1,000,000%. Go take an adult time out for 90 days.
because
Minimum.
What does residential do for you?
So residential treatment, being in a safe area where you can put some distance between you and the irrational, emotional feelings that you're feeling, of that everyday, World War III going.
Pull you out of your routine.
Pull you out of your routine, right? Get you start showering again, get you making your bed again. They call it the program for the reason, right? Because we have to reprogram what that chemical has seared in our mind. And in that process, you meet some really, really cool people that only want you to do good for you.
Yeah.
No strings attached.
Right.
Right? Whether that's the patients that are there or the counselors that are there. And you're going to unpack a lot about the disease concept. You're going to learn a lot of things. The information that I feel like is a very, very vital portion of when you leave treatment and you actually embark into the recovery process, right? Because treatment is treatment. It's not recovery.
Correct.
Right? Treatment is where you go. It's a controlled environment. You can excel in treatment, right? But it's really setting you up for the next step.
Right.
And
Treatment is triage. It's the emergency life-saving measures taken at an emergency room.
Yeah.
You're removed from your chemical. You're removed from the behavior, the liquor store, the connection, the family, whatever.
Yeah, the
phone.
routines.
Your responsibilities are taken from you for a time being so you can solely focus on you and yourself in that moment. That is not recovery. That is you getting stitched up.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And so, everybody always, they give me every excuse in the book. Work, wife, kids. And I'm like, look, man, you take care of this. You go sit down for 90 days, right? And you have the rest of your life to impact those people's lives.
I mean, right.
30 days don't cut it, man. For me, if you're asking me,
we should also, be cautious to say 30 days don't cut it. You and I know, Greg and I, all of us know, but to our viewers out there, when we say 30 days don't cut it, we are not meaning after 30 days you are fixed.
Yes.
I think we collectively believe we are never fixed to the point where we can drink or use again, but we can achieve a place where we have more better days in a row than bad days in a row. And if we live our life the way we rebuild it, that we can manage
absolutely
ourselves today.
And
Right.
and that's a great point, because what I'm saying to you is if you can take advantage of as much treatment as possible, and I know that people got lives, I know that funding's an issue, I know there's a lot of different things. Yeah. And I'm not telling the guys that do go to 30 days and then go into outpatient or, jump into meetings and stuff. My recommendation, just back to the question, will always be, let's try to get 90 days, because there's nothing that 90 days under the sun can't fix.
Right.
That's just my MO.
So if you think about it, you get in a car wreck.
Yeah.
This car wreck lasts 10, 15 years to wreck this fucking car. But by the time that car comes to a rest and we're going into recovery. We're going into rehab. We're going to get this emergency fix. Imagine smashing your car, you're gassed, your liver, your guts, everywhere. You're beat up everywhere. Are you going to want to go to the emergency room for as least amount of time as possible? Or are you going to want to go to that hospital, given that, hospitals are good? Are you going to want to go to that hospital and stay in that hospital for as long as you can to get fixed as best you can, so when you get out, you're not carrying some of this bullshit? I don't want a gaping infected wound on my leg.
Yeah,
and I want that fixed. So in the idea of like a car wreck, I want to spend as much time getting as much professional help, or the help that's the specialized help, as possible. It's the same kind of scenario, right? And I get some folks have jobs they can't just leave for 90 days. I get that some folks can't go without the money. I get that. I understand that. Plan A is tap out residential treatment. It's like going to the ER after a car wreck. You get as much fixed, stay as long as you can, fix as much as you can before you drive back out onto the road again, right?
I wish I can go back to residential treatment just because I need 90-day break.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like I always joke around, and with the guys that I work with that don't want to go to rehab, I was like, bro, I wish I could go back to rehab right now. And this is me 13 and a half years in, and that's just because I feel like you can never get enough work in on yourself.
Right.
And time never stops right now. So,
and again, the kind of things we learn, the kind of lessons we take, and the kind of advice we're given, and the kind of people we're around isn't found in a junior college. It's not found in a 4-year university. Sometimes it's found, if you know what to ask for or talk about, you can find it for anywhere from $95 to $125 an hour for 50 minutes.
Yeah.
Twice a month. You can pay for therapy. You can, because therapy is learning, relearning, whatever, right? You're learning stuff, right? I'm not minimizing it, but in the purpose of this conversation, you're relearning stuff. Where do you go to learn about your character defects? Where do you look it up? Where do you go to learn about, this spiritual awakening, about having something greater than yourself to believe in? My goodness, we're learning about believing in something bigger than ourselves so we can have a confidence that it's genuinely unbreakable, that we can handle. Our confidence lets us handle positives and negatives almost in the same light. And it's not dismissing it. Well, it wasn't mine to have. That's not dismissing it. That's setting my heart and mind in a place where I can keep fighting for what I want. And I don't get setbacks the way I would or normally would. I can navigate. I don't have to just smash through stuff anymore, right? And there's more of a peace of mind, or more of a presence.
And a flow, there's more of a flow to it.
Things are still difficult. Things are still hard. You still cry. Death still hurts. Losing a job, getting in a fight, all these things are real feelings, but we can navigate those. And, the more you put into yourself, or, throwing yourself into a program like this, there's different ways, but the more you throw yourself in, the better you're going to come out. And here's the thing. It might be good news. You can do it more than once.
Yeah.
And you learn new things. It's layers. You learn more about yourself.
My story for sure.
And then at some point, you become that beacon for others around you.
Absolutely. And
then they come to you. And then when you start giving it to them, it's not like you stop learning new stuff, but you start learning new stuff by giving it away to other people. Yep. And then they're empowered. And then that keeps you clean for a day, or keeps you, godly or close or at peace, whatever word you want to use.
Let's say, if you really want to learn something, then teach it.
That's right.
What was that saying? You're not an expert in something unless you can explain it to a 6th grader.
Explain it simply,
or a 6-year-old,
or whatever, or something. Yeah.
Well, I definitely went and learned it. So, and then I went out and
the hard way.
And then I went out and became a counselor, and I wanted to learn more. Because that was my thing at the beginning of this last time, was information.
Right.
Information was huge. And I'll always come back to information because it's something that I really want to hit home for anybody that's listening. Like you take that statement, and like, you don't get, in depth with that. Right. And it's something that I really preach, because it's what changed me. I understand that once I allowed myself to get outside of the illusion that I was being honest, right? Because honesty has a barrier because of the lack of information. So you can be honest because you don't know the whole story.
Yeah.
So you're not telling a lie.
That's what I mean about getting asked questions that you never really thought of. You're like,
know?
whoa, wait a minute.
But then whenever the truth cuts you and penetrates you, now you realize,
yeah, what's that? That's the stuff that you don't know that you don't know. There's stuff you know you don't know, and then there's the stuff you don't know.
You don't know what you don't know.
Or how about the stuff that you were subconsciously blocking?
Didn't want to know.
Yeah.
Didn't want to know.
You know it, but blocked it.
That's when your face gets really hot and your ears pull back really hard and you start sweating in places you never knew you could sweat before. Like, kind of like it feels like when you get caught.
Yeah. Well, it is. It is.
It is really.
Every one of those relationships where the girls.
You caught you.
It feels like when you get caught. I don't like that shit. My ears all cramping and stuff.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you the first time I experienced that was whenever I realized that I was a little chauvinistic, bro. And I never saw myself in that light. And no, this is a real,
work in progress.
Yeah, this is a real deal, man. Like, I didn't realize when I started working on that a couple times in, started going through those relationship patterns and started going back to some of the words that these women have said to me. You know, you're controlling, you're this, you're that, and you never see yourself in this light, right? And I remember when the veil came off, man, and I was like,
oh, hey, that's me.
You're an asshole. You're a jerk. And you mistreated these women because I remember I didn't think my mom was a woman. I didn't consciously put my mom as a title, mom.
It's different.
I didn't think she was a woman, right? So you went through my whole life, not correlating these women and that my mom is an actual woman. She's just mom.
Right.
And like when that thing came down, bro, I felt like crap, because it penetrated me all the way. So that information, really changed my relationship with people, not just women, with people in general.
Right.
All right.
It broke me down.
Yeah, serious.
And so that truth, when it penetrates your gut, man, and it cuts you, that's when they say, I'd rather cut you with the truth than comfort you with the lie.
Yeah.
And that is 100% a true statement, And so, we got a little sidetracked there, but I think that second part to the question that you asked about, you said, what do you recommend?
For family and friends of an addict or somebody in recovery, yeah.
So the second part of that is very important to the process,
Yeah.
especially for the person that goes into treatment, because what a lot of people don't understand is that they get just as sick as the individual that is going to treatment.
Yeah.
So during that process, the family is carried through the mud.
Oh, yeah.
They've gotten sick. They don't recognize it. Right? Because chemical dependency, we have something to point to. Addiction, we have something to point to. But when it comes to, codependency, that's a huge mental health.
That's a big one.
That's a huge mental health umbrella.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of things that fall under that umbrella. And so when a mom or a dad or a sister or sibling, kids, it's very important for them to find out about their own sickness. Right? Because they have one. They're just not aware of it, because of what the addict has inflicted on them mentally, verbally, physically.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit contagious, this
is.
addiction disease.
So, I mean, there is a right way. There are many suggested ways to support an active addict and somebody in recovery. And there's a lot of intuitive ways. And a lot of times those lists aren't the same.
No.
Right. Yeah. So you get this mothering or this fathering kind of idea of how to care for somebody. And like when he was saying, when this happens, like when the addict goes through his addiction, the family goes through their change as well. So if they're engaged, they might have maladaptive coping skills, right? Yeah. And they may grow into those and solidify those. So when the addict gets clean, the family's still thinking this is how you support them. They, a lot of times the first things that are learned are boundaries. For the family,
at some point you referred to your mom as an enabler.
Yeah.
So,
and
she wasn't like that before.
And right. And here's the thing about that, man. You come out of treatment and they're still sick.
Yeah.
And you're flying on cloud 9. What's going to happen?
Yeah.
Hey, mom, give me $20. No, I'm good. Okay. You promise you're good?
Yeah.
But an educated mom, a re-educated mom, or, you know, someone who's gone through like an Al-Anon program or been exposed to other people would say, hey, yeah, I love you. And that sounds like you really need that. But when you get a job and you get your own money, you can buy that for you. Right. Or you don't need to leave the house at 10 o'clock or whatever the case is. The mom
Boundaries,
is now educated and the mother's educated, right? About things.
That's monumental. I mean, like just that whole scenario can shape or form the next 30 days of
Not
that
to
person's
pick
life.
on all the moms of the world, but my goodness, it's the moms of the world that are really in the trenches most of the time.
And then, you know, that's a healthy mom. Now let's talk about, that's a mom that's going to Al-Anon, that's learning how to set boundaries, that's learning about codependency, that's learning about some of her own stuff, that's triaging that stuff. Let's talk about the mom that's not going, or the parent that's not going. Let's not pick on moms no more. I love you.
Yeah.
But, you know, let's talk about the parent that's not going. So what's going to happen if they have no information? They're solely putting this on the addict, right? It's your job to get clean, right? I don't need to do anything. I'm fine. And then I come back and I'm living in that space, and then that person triggers me, and I use that to take myself back out, right? So that's why, you know, it's not always good that the addict comes back to that environment.
No.
Yeah, right.
You know?
No, you don't. It's like if I'm an alcoholic and I drink daily, I shouldn't be at the fucking bar.
Even if you're not drinking.
Oh, I'm just reading the newspaper. I just got off work and come down to say hi to friends.
Yeah.
Bill and say,
Come hang out.
Yeah, read the paper and just kind of hang out, blah, blah, blah. No, we got no business doing that shit, right? Coming back to the same environment, it's like putting on dirty underwear.
Well, we say you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So if you go back and spend time with those people,
you're not going to up their
bound to
average.
fall. Yeah.
Here's another drawback. 2 people, one starts growing, the other one doesn't. They're going to distance themselves.
Yeah.
You're going to lose that relationship. If this person continues to grow, they're going to grow away or grow apart or whatever. There's going to be distance.
Yeah.
There's just going to be distance between them.
Things definitely change.
Right.
You know, they can change for the better, or they can just change in a manner of knowing that, hey, we got to grow apart, right? Like, and that could be with, you know, that could be with me, with my own family, right? If my own family chooses that they don't want to educate themselves and they don't want to, you know, get better, you know, and they don't want to find that they have some deficiencies of their own that were brought on possibly from my addiction, possibly from stuff from their own life.
Right.
And that whenever I go, you know, to move back into their house with them, this might not be the healthiest environment for me to find the best success.
Yeah.
And I might have to take, you know, an alternative route, which might be a sober living environment.
Living somewhere else, yeah.
You know, taking advantage of something and saying, okay, yeah, I know that would be the easy route to go back to mom and dad's house.
But that's where I left.
Just don't go to Chicago.
Yeah, don't go to Chicago. Don't go to Crook County, man. Chi-town, man. What's up?
Anthony, thank you so much for coming over here and hanging out with us tonight. We're at the top of Full Court Towers. This green screen is a giant.
Yes, sir.
Okay, Full Court Towers, here we are. Thank you again for, you know, putting yourself out there and just hanging out with us. And, you know, we do have some followers and somebody's going to hear something in your message, dude. So greatly appreciate that.
Oh, yeah.
We share it all over the place. So, you know, like we opened the show, we're in Sweden, bro.
Yeah.
We're in Sweden.
What's up, Sweden?
What's up, Sweden?
What's going on?
How you doing?
All my Syrian people out in Sweden, what's up? Syriac FF.
That's the football league, right?
That's the soccer team.
That's the soccer team.
Football.
Football.
Yeah,
Football.
huge. We got a huge Assyrian following out there, man. Like good people. Got some family and friends that live here in town that are from Sweden.
Yeah.
You know,
That's awesome.
They make the Swedish style pizza right here. Some kebab pizza. They make it right here in town, man. That's where that all derived from, because they went down to Sweden and they courted their wives over there. And
really?
They came back and, you know, all that. So shout out to Sweden.
Oh, Swedish pizza. Hold on a minute. I've never seen those words put together before.
They got it, man. It's a thing.
What's it look like?
Oh, it's something that I wish I could have every day, but I can't.
Yeah.
You know, it's got the kebab sauce and it got these little pieces of meat. It's kebab meat and got the peppercini peppers on it. You know, it's really good. It's really good.
So, well, we can have that next week for podcast.
Oh,
Are they on DoorDash?
You know, they're on there, man. I'll make sure they're family, so I'll get them. I'll get them to send you guys one.
That. Well, that's going to do it for us tonight, folks. Greatly appreciate each and every one of you for hanging out with us tonight. And that's going to do it. My name is Jason.
And I'm Greg.
Peace out, everybody.
Hey.
Our outro. Outro. No effects. Just breathing. We stole something.
Yeah.
Hella free. We stole something free.
Yeah.
That's a free
We
song.
made it
We
our
took
own.
and no royalty.
That's sick.
Yeah. So
That's sick.
here's the
Yeah.
after banter.
It has a little bit of feel like that Thriller feel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Epic. That
You know?
epic, moody kind of.
You know, when the garages are going up and that boom, you know.
The version of the song with the words is so much different. It almost like the words don't match that beat or something. They turned into a faster song than it sounds like
The
it
words
should
are
be.
really fast.
Yeah.
Because I've been living life like I could just die any minute. I did it. I nailed it. Those are the words.
There you go.
No effects. Just breathing. Come on the show. Shout out.
Yeah, what's up?
Dude, God is not done with California, bro. I tell everybody.
on fire. They're shutting down Hollywood Boulevard.
I tell everybody that.
Playing like Christian concerts in the street.
Was the first thing my mom taught me.
Huh? The Holy Spirit?
Faith.
Oh, faith, yeah.
I think the youngest age ever.
My grandma was the one that really did that.